Today we're going to take on one of our most popular modifications, and probably the one that gives most people the most apprehension, which is our ride-on lighting kit. We've worked for a number of years to perfect this lighting kit to make it as plug-and-play possible for those people that have zero electrical knowledge. We have this dune racer that we're going to use as an example. It's stripped down so things are out of the way, make it a little easier for you to see how to do it, but you certainly don't need to disassemble your vehicle like this in order to install the lighting kit. We've gone ahead and made a sample of what the lighting kit looks like in the vehicle to show you how simple this really is. This goes back to your high school science project days. Here's a sample of a battery connector that is in your vehicle already, minus the rest of the wiring harness that has nothing to do with the lighting. The lighting kit is going to come with the lights and all these other connectors that you need to make it work. You're basically going to tap into the wires with these provided connectors. An on-off switch is going to come off the negative lead, and go over to these power distribution blocks, one for red, one for black, and then from there you can plug in as many different lights as you want. This thing can handle 30 LEDs if you wanted to make it all light up. You can add in our underglow lighting to it. So it really is a basic and simple system. The LED lights that we provide are all designed to run on 12 volts. If you're running an 18 or 24 volt system, you can get the kit with an optional voltage reduction module, which just goes in line here. It'll have two red and two blacks coming in and out, so that you can feed 12 volts to your system instead of your increased voltage. So the first thing that you want to consider is where you're going to place your lights. This dune racer doesn't really have any kind of a horizontal or vertical front place to put a light other than here near the steering linkage assembly. So this might be a challenge for a lot of people, but we're going to go ahead and tap in some headlights right into here on this vehicle. And then on the back of this vehicle, we're going to tap in some taillights onto the bottom, or onto these exhaust ports. Alright, now before I go ahead and drill a hole for the first lights, let's just talk about these LED lights for a moment. You have two wires going up here into a circuit board. Each one of these lights we test right before we ship them out to make sure that they are good lights. Now, if you put this into your vehicle and don't drill a big enough hole and start twisting it, you're going to break the wires off inside the board here, and that's permanent failure, and you're going to wind up buying new lights. So make sure when you drill your hole, you make it large enough so that without this nut on, you'll be able to slide this portion in. It's 3/8 of an inch, and then clean any debris out of the hole that might make it otherwise tight. Very, very important step. Can't tell you how many frustrated people that we've had, even though it's in big, bold note on the instructions. Please make sure you don't twist the light into the vehicle. So, we need a 3/8 inch hole. I'm going to start by making a pilot hole in the place where I want the light to go, and I want the light to go here. I've checked behind the area to make sure it's clear, that I can get the light through and get to the wires. And my pilot hole is a little off, and that's exactly why we make pilot holes, because I can do that. And now I'll switch over to the larger drill bit and be able to get my hole exactly where I wanted it. Better to be a little larger than smaller with the hole, and we're going to go ahead and clean that out and then insert the LED. Alright, now I'm going to take the nut off the back. And here's where you don't want to be threading. We want to be able to push this in, like so. If you get a good tight fit and you can't reach to the back to get the nut on, that's okay. That one's nice and snug, it'll stay on there just fine. Save the wire. We're going to move on and do the other lights now. And one last hole for the power switch. Snap this into place. And now all our hardware is installed and we're ready to move on to the wiring. The next step in wiring is going to be getting your distribution blocks into place. You want them to be as near to the battery as possible to make your wire runs to it as short as possible. Most vehicles have ample room inside the battery storage compartment to have these. The Dune Racer is really well known for being tight on space. We've gone ahead and unbolted the top here, and you can see your battery compartment area is quite tight here. On either side though, we have plenty of open room, which we can use for our distribution blocks and be right next to the battery. Okay, so I've got this flipped over. Most of the wire harness comes in on this side of the vehicle. If you notice this extra harness we have here that you don't have in your vehicle, that's our 24-volt conversion kit. Story for another day. This hooks up the same either way. So with the wiring on this side, which will translate to this portion, we're going to go ahead and run our wires to it. I've already taken the liberty of drilling a small hole to run the wire from this tail light to the other side, and what we'll do is we'll leave enough slack to just tape the wire up top here so it doesn't hit it. The distribution blocks have these little orange tabs that you lift up. When you lift up on them, you can slide the wire in. These wires are so thin because they're a low amperage current setup. You can fold them over if you want to get a little more thickness, doesn't matter. These clamps are really good at holding the wires. With the tab up, slide in, clip down, and that locks the wire in place. If you're running more than 5 wires, go ahead and put multiple wires into one hole, doesn't matter. On this side, same thing. I'm going to fold this over, slide this in, lock, and I've got a good secure connection. I'm going to run the wires from the front of the vehicle back, run the on-off switch, and then tap into the main section next. The next thing that we need to do is get our lighting from the front of the vehicle to the back. I've already got them mounted as we did earlier in the video, and what I've done is drilled a hole into the front compartment for the wires. I've got 2 red and black wires, one from each set of lights. And then we have the wire that came with the vehicle. Now, if your battery is in the front of the vehicle and you have tail lights, you're going to be doing this just from the opposite end. I'm going to use this extra wire to run the power to the distribution blocks. Now, you can do this a number of different ways. It's really whatever you prefer. Easy, lazy man's way out, run it underneath the vehicle, secure it to the bottom of the chassis, and you're done. We're going to go an extra step here and run it through the original wire channel for the vehicle. We already had this exposed. We've already got a hole drilled, one hole that's needed from the footboard assembly into this front compartment because we did that 24-volt conversion. So I've pulled the wire through here. Just going to run it to the back. We'll get that neatened and set into place in a little bit. And there's no need to run 2 wires because we have 2 lights. We can just connect red, and the red from the other light, all 3 reds together. And if I had 5 lights in the front, still connect all of them to your one wire that you're going to run to the back of the vehicle. You don't need one run of wire the whole length of the vehicle for each light. That just makes a mess, and we don't give you that much wire. So these can get wire tied together, these can get electric taped together. You can do whatever you want. Our preferred way of doing it is soldering because that's permanent and neat. So I'm going to go ahead and solder these together now, and then we'll have all our wires to the back of the vehicle. And there we have it. The wires are neat and moved out of the way, and we can go ahead and close the channel back up, and we'll move to the back of the vehicle again. So as you can see, our kit came with plenty of wire here to run all the way to the back of the vehicle and then some. So I'm going to cut this wire to length to reach our power distribution module, and I'm going to leave us some extra room so that if I ever need to access these beautiful stage 4 motor gearboxes in the future, I can. So we'll cut that short, set the wire aside. Separate the two wires and strip them clean. And keeping in our good old tradition of red to red, and open up any one of these, red to red, lock her in. Use this open black port here. And now I have all 4 of my lights connected. If I was doing an underglow kit, I could add those in, and again, as many lights as we want. Next thing we have to do is connect the power switch, and then just tap into the main power source on the vehicle. Next we want to connect our power switch to our negative distribution block, the black one. So you can just use the scrap wire from your kit. I've cut a small section here, made a small hole to route it neatly. Go to our distribution block, slide the stripped end in, lock it in place. Now your kit comes with these spade connectors that you can slide onto the end of the stripped wire and crimp, and then connect to either one of these two. It doesn't matter which one. But again, I'm a soldering kind of person, so I'm going to go ahead and just attach it with solder. The final stage of assembly now for your wiring is going to be to hook the power distribution clips up to your blue wire taps. Let's take a second to talk about these handy power clips that we sent you with your kit. This is a way that you can tap into the vehicle's power without actually cutting the wire. Now, if you want to cut the wire and make a splice, you're certainly welcome to. Any way to draw power, these are low amperage, is great, but this is for those that aren't comfortable cutting their stock vehicle wire. So if we look closely at the clip, one side has a pass-through hole, and the other side the hole doesn't go all the way through on. The pass-through hole is for the wire on the vehicle. Now this has a slit on the side that you can pop the wire into. I'm going to just slide it in for demo purposes here. But again, on the vehicle, since you can't get to the end of the wire, just pop it in the side. And then we can use the extra piece of wire that we sent you and slide it into the end. Or the entire wire length. Again, this is low amperage stuff, so it doesn't have to be large diameter. You can slide an extra piece of it into here. Then you'll take a pair of pliers and clamp down on the metal bracket here. When you clamp down on the metal, that's going to make a secure connection between them, and you'll have another black power lead coming off of your black side, and you could do white to white. So that's how these work, and we're going to go ahead and do it on the vehicle now. I've set them in place on the wires here, and what we're going to do is we're going to run one wire from the black to the other on-off switch, and from the white to the red and power distribution block. That's going to complete our circuit. Now I've got enough leftover wire with my kit that I can easily do that. However, this vehicle is going to be running at 24 volts, and if you're going to be running at anything more than 12 volts, you'll need the voltage reduction module, which is an option with your kit. It's very simple. It's going to take the 18 or 24 volts coming in and reduce it back down to 12 volts for the lights. It has an inside and an outside, so it's very straightforward to put in. All we have to do now is take the red and the black, slide them into our blocks. There's blocks on this side. Take our pliers, crimp down the metal. Same thing with the black end. Clamp that down. We have these nice little covers that snap in place. So I'm going to take my positive, which in this case is yellow, and put it into an open distribution clip. And again, my black one needs to run over to the on-off switch, which we will solder in place now. Alright, the vehicle is totally wired now. What I would highly recommend before you screw everything back together is that you now put a battery in it and test it to make sure it works. Ooh. Ah. And that's how we do it at ML Toys.